Okay, so Juventus dropping points. That means that Inter had the chance to go top of the table, which they took. Now, I remember just 2 podcasts ago sitting here, and
Nicky's always
we
trolling.
were all down on Antonio Conte's way of speaking to the press and the stupid things that he would say. But I would like to say that I felt like I was the only one sticking up for the actual results. Now, 2 games later, they're top of the table. Are we still saying that Conte is only doing a sufficient job? I think he's doing a really good job on the pitch.
I love Nicky's revisionist history, don't you?
Go back and listen to these podcasts.
I'm not sure
Go
whether
back
we
and check
said he
them
was
again.
doing a sufficient job. I think that what our issue was that, well, my issue anyway, I don't want to speak for Gab here, but for me, it's, firstly, your team is very good. So I'm not going to sit there and say, oh dear, you have Skriniar and De Vrij and Lukaku and Lautaro Martinez and Sensi and Barella that everyone wants. And oh yes, yeah, oh well done for beating SPAL. You know, like, as in, look, my point is that the team is very good. I think that Juventus are performing below expectations. They haven't lost many games. They
haven't lost any games.
They haven't drawn, you know, well, actually, yeah, not even.
Juventus haven't lost any
not
games.
even in the Champions
Inter have only
League.
lost to Juventus.
You're
Well, in
right.
the Champions League as well. Yeah.
But it's about when it comes
little
to,
thing.
it's about the big matches, right, with Inter, like against Juventus, against Barcelona,
Dortmund.
against Borussia Dortmund. There is that quality that I miss, and that is for me where I think that he's not great. Listen, for me, what it is, I know this sounds crazy, but when you compare Conte and right now Sarri, it's, do you remember Arezzo? Like the team that they were both in charge of in one season. You have Conte, who's good and wins every matches, and it's never spectacular football, but it's good and hard and gritty and determined. And then you bring in Sarri, and then he does these wonderful things, like gets these points against Juventus and Napoli because they were both in Serie A. He takes them far in the Coppa Italia. You know, Sarri is the kind of guy that does things in the big teams, against the big teams, and shows the quality of his sides. Conte is a guy that wins against SPAL and against all the other teams and gets you the points to possibly win the league. But the team is good enough to be at least second. Sorry.
And let me remind you, we were critical of him around the time he was contriving to get Inter eliminated from the Champions League in a group that contained the worst Barcelona in recent memory, the worst Borussia Dortmund, well, except for the Peter Bosz era in recent memory, and Slavia Prague, okay? So, and also saying silly things about his players after throwing away 2-0 leads, right?
Because they're already from Cagliari and Sassuolo.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was also critical of the things he said, but I think you have. I think this needs to be said, because I think there's this standard that's being set for him. Yes, I agree. They've spent a lot of money in the summer window. It's obvious they've signed good players. However, he's going up against a Juventus team that actually is, on top of already being ahead of everyone, has dropped 190 million on 2 players the last 2 summers, just on De Ligt and Ronaldo. He's also, he's also comparable. And if you want to talk about money spent with, hey, didn't Milan spend more money 2 summers ago and then continue to spend
the
year
benchmark.
after?
Wait, hold on.
It's
Isn't
Milan.
Lukaku 75 million and Barella 50 million? It's not like they're that much cheaper.
Sorry.
No, but what's this expectation? You're basically setting a bar that's impossible for him if you're saying that competing for the title is not a high enough bar.
No. Sorry. Okay, look, I was hoping to talk about Lautaro and Lukaku, but since you turned it into the Conte let's rub it all in thing, how about a few reminders, such as the fact that the team that he took over ended up getting knocked out in the group stage of the Champions League with the same goal difference as a team that advanced. They got knocked out on a tiebreaker. And the reality for him is that he has yet to show that he can advance. And by the way, last year's team was in a tougher group.
You're going to judge him.
I'm going to
judge
him. I'm going to judge him.
Are you seriously telling me those performances under Spalletti in the group stage were better? Because if you are, I just couldn't disagree with you more.
No, I haven't seen great performances, frankly, from either one. I saw an hour against Barcelona, saw a little bit against Borussia Dortmund. We haven't seen performances in either one. I don't think we've seen tremendous performances in Serie A. What we've seen is tremendous results, and I give him credit at the weekend. The guy from Cagliari and the guy from Sassuolo, the two irrelevants, weren't there. And they beat SPAL at home. Well done. SPAL, I think, would scored how many goals away from home going into
So
the
they still got a goal.
So
But
I know they still scored.
So
let's take it
you're doing
easy.
it. Even now you're trying to do it. Even now you're
Let's
trying to
take it-
minimize the successes. Yes, he beat SPAL.
Do you know why?
12 wins out of
Do you know
14
why,
games,
Nicky?
which Inter have never done.
No.
Inter play teams like SPAL every season. Every season they play teams like SPAL.
Why is the
it's
benchmark
not like these teams
Inter?
are only there for the first time.
Let's wait and see what he delivers.
doing
Nicky,
things
Nicky,
that
no,
are-
but
If you
you're
wanna
right.
praise him-
No,
Unprecedented.
we're not saying
They've
that.
never
We
won
don't
12 out
want
of
to
14
minimize.
before.
You're right. It's the first time
Never.
in their history that they've won 12 out of
Yeah.
14. But I just want to remind you that two
The
seasons
bar
ago,
just keeps going up for
two
him.
seasons ago, Spalletti was in first place in the 14th,
That's
in
true.
the 15th
That
and
is very
16th.
true. Yeah.
And then they
Wasn't
went on a
Mancini
collapse.
in first place too, and they were terrible and playing turgid football? He's playing better football than in those years. Let's give him credit for something he has realistically done, which is he's playing a front two, which I was actually trying to think of, and correct me if I'm wrong here, of sort of the top 15, 20 teams in Europe, however you choose to define it, who plays a front two. Sometimes Arsenal under Emery, we know how well that went. And I think that's it.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.